I was looking up about a week ago. This is from The Hill. It talks about Joe Biden and his increase to the military budget. I can see if I can do a screen share here. Let me see. I'm still new at this, so
Oh, you have to click present, I believe. And then if you have a window or a Chrome tab, I think you press that and then you share what you want to share.
got it, got it.
I like how the Zoomer is explaining it to the rest of us.
We need
That's
Zoomers.
why we strategically got RJ for the crew. We definitely need at least one Zoomer because I
So,
hate doing this. I
Yeah,
love
we
playing on camera, but RJ is our man.
yeah
okay.
we Zoomers are carrying everything. My back hurts.
You really are. I mean, hey, as a millennial, I actually vote that we just kind of pass it off to y'all because I look around and I see people like Pete Buttigieg and Joe Kennedy III representing my generation, and I'm just like, you know what? We'll just pass and we'll just let the Zoomers totally take over. We'll just let y'all take
Mhm.
over. We'll help y'all with that. But I feel like maybe Pete Buttigieg, Joe, no thanks. We'll just pass up on our turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if the viewers could see what JB is screen sharing now. It is on the screen. So JB, go ahead.
Yeah. So as you guys, hopefully can see, this is from The Hill, and it talks about Biden's budget, uh, his budget proposal. It says the defense budget is a sacred cow. It says his proposal will add $12.3 billion to the defense budget, a 1.7% increase in which a typical year would just keep pace with inflation at a total of $753 billion. It leaves in place significant increases to defense spending that former President Trump set in motion. And, this actually just goes to show to a lot of people that the whole let's push Biden to the left or Biden won't be as bad as Trump. This kind of just takes that and negates the entire argument because the money that we're spending for defense and the money that we're spending towards companies like Boeing and Raytheon and all these other different military contractors means that this machine is still going no matter who's in place, no matter if it's a Democrat, a Republican, a conservative, or a liberal. And so, just to get your thoughts on this, Ron, about using this money towards death machines, basically, uh, instead of using it for something that actually either is a catalyst or promotes life, basically, like, for instance, healthcare, Green New Deal. We were just talking about municipal internet, municipal broadband, I'm sorry, and also criminal justice reform. What are your thoughts on seeing that we actually are doing an increase that's basically an extension of a Trump policy?
Well, I mean, this goes into the war economy that often goes underreported. I mean, this happened I mean, nobody talked about this. Nobody weighed in on this. There was no, taking the pulse of public opinion on this whole thing. The only places you heard about this was in independent media and on Twitter, because they just kind of pushed the war economy along. And that's been going on throughout all of our entire lifetimes. And it really got exacerbated under George W. Bush, where they, saw the axis of evil and decided they're going to set the Middle East on fire, one country at a time. So it was put on steroids by George W. Bush. Barack Obama kind of continued that. He kept it on autopilot. He talked nicer, so a lot of people didn't notice. Trump continued it on autopilot. And Biden is likely going to do the same. I mean, especially if his 40-year history is any indication. He's always been fine with the war machine his entire career. So this kind of keeps going. And a lot of people, they don't make the connection between this is why we live in the country we do. Our foreign
Yes.
policy is connected to our domestic policy. we are behaving like an empire because we are a modern day empire. And not only is it morally repulsive on every level, why are we building an economy based on war and death? That's disgusting. But it's also the reason we don't have healthcare. It's the reason we don't have free college. It's the reason we don't have a Green New Deal. It's the reason why people at home have these lower and lower standards as far as quality of life is concerned. Meanwhile, the only thing close to a jobs program we have is the military and setting the Middle East on fire at the behest of oil companies. And really, it's because they're the people running this country.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think
be the poor. Go ahead, RJ.
Tupac.
Just to add to that, manufacturing consent does have an effect on all of that. In terms of like the military budgets themselves, and just look at the whole movement with defund the police. A lot of like the military industrial complex people, they'll say, oh, we'll see. And even on CNN, they'll say, oh, well, this is why we need more money for police training and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, but you're giving more money to the cops so they can be incentivized to kill more black people in those communities, which is why I'm against that. And look at too in which how the military industrial complex plays Biden and plays Donald Trump. So one of the things that they would do against Donald Trump is if Donald Trump even pretends to buck the establishment, especially the military industrial complex, because it makes the base happy, what they'll do is they'll use Russiagate against him 24/7, and then he's a cuck, so he's going to bend and do what they want anyway. And look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden himself, he's been pro establishment his entire political career, starting off with being siding with Strom Thurmond with the Dixiecrats. So he's been true to himself. But one thing he does do is he plays this cultural appeal. He's middle-class Joe from Scranton. He's Uncle Joe wearing aviator sunglasses looking ice cream. So he's able to play that cultural game, which liberals love. And he's able to push the pro-war narrative as well, which is also very frustrating.
A question that I actually have and this goes to Nick, with this increase in the military budget, and of the taking the same policy from Donald Trump that Joe Biden's basically adopting, do you honestly believe that Joe Biden is really going to pull out all the troops from Afghanistan in good faith, as many people, especially on the liberal side, somehow believe?
JB, don't even get me started, man. I've been telling people. I know
what I'm doing.
You know what you're doing, man. I've been telling people at this point, all I have is I told you so. All I have is I told you so. So people are shocked that Joe Biden is continuing the genocide in Yemen. I called it. I said, like back in November, I said I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Biden continues that. And now we see Joe Biden increasing the military budget more than Donald Trump initially did when he was president. And I'm like, I'm not surprised, because do people have short memory or something? Like, do you guys know why Kamala Harris was chosen as vice president? Because when she was a senator, Bernie Sanders introduced a bill to slash the military budget by only 10%. 10% is a joke, by the way. It's nothing. I voted for the Green Party because the Green Party, at least on their platform, they had the guts to call for a 70% cut for the military budget. And I have a lot of respect and love for Angela Walker, because she's like, I dare you to ask me about it. I dare you to ask me about it, because if you're serious about climate change, you must slash the military budget. Because they are the U.S. military, the largest polluter in human history. So if you are saying you're serious about climate change, but you're not serious about cutting the military budget, you're being deeply unserious. And that's what she said. She said, I want someone to ask for that. So by the way, I'm not mad at Bernie because it's good to move the window to the left. I'm not mad at him. I'm just saying that's already a joke. But Kamala Harris voted against that. So throughout the course of the campaign, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the Democratic establishment kept showing their hand. Like, they kept showing us who they are. And I mean, a wise person once said, if someone show you who they are, believe them. And that is what I was doing. You had Joe Biden that was openly running to the right of Donald Trump in the campaign on foreign policy. And now people are shocked Venezuela. And now people are shocked that he's ramping up the U.S. war machine. And I want to toss it to Ron and get his thoughts on this, because another prediction I made, I said, I think Joe Biden is going to just ramp up tension against Iran. And when Joe Biden campaigned, he said he was going to get back in the Iran deal day one. He didn't say he's going to have a long negotiation battle with Iran, where they continue the same tactics of Donald Trump, where they want to keep the sanctions. Iran's stance on this has been the same since day one. They said remove the sanctions, we back in the deal. But Biden has been playing games. I predicted that was true. I predicted they will continue to genocide Yemen. That turned out to be true. And now my prediction right now is I don't think he's going to get out of Afghanistan. And I plead in the leftists. Sorry, I'll talk to you around here very soon. I plead leftists, please stop saying he's getting out of Afghanistan. There's a report in the gray zone. Let me see if I can get it put up on the screen here and shared. But Biden isn't ending the Afghanistan war, at least by any definition that any leftist was used. Jeremy, I'm trying to give him credit. Jeremy Kuzmaris, I'm saying his name all wrong, but that's who wrote this. Biden isn't ending. I don't know if can you guys see on the screen? I'm not sure.
It's sharing now.
Okay, great. This from the gray zone. Biden isn't ending the Afghanistan war. He's privatizing it. Special forces, private Pentagon contractors, intelligence operators will remain. So why do I have this prediction? And I said it in before this article because he didn't pull out on Trump's deadline. And at a time when they said they wasn't going to pull out on the deadline, Al-Qaeda was upset. And they were like, okay, it's on. It's on, motherfucker. It's on. You don't want to pull out? We're going to increase violence. So what Joe Biden did, he put back the deadline to September 11th. So now you already had people in media say, all right, there's violence is going to be on Joe Biden. So guess what? If there's any attack that's happened between now and September 11th, with Al-Qaeda already said they are upset and they will continue attacks if they remain, they're going to use that to increase troop levels even more. I say increase troop levels because they're not pulling out. Because before I was like, okay, they're going to use that as an excuse to stay back in. But for one, we see now they're breaking it down that they're not pulling out. And now they're going to use that to even increase troop levels even more when something happens. So that's why I predicted that. And I was skeptical from day one because I tweeted at the time, why is Joe Biden increasing the military budget if you're planning on pulling out of these wars? It just factually didn't make sense. So anyway, I want to get your thoughts on that, Robert Cohn. What do you think and your prediction overall on Biden and Afghanistan? What do you think of Biden's foreign policy overall in his time in office?
I can't really knock your prediction, man, because when I saw it, my response was, similar to yours. I said, man, between now and September, that's a lot of time for excuses to not actually pull out. Yeah. And as far as instigating Iran, yeah, I do expect that with this administration, again, because it's like you see the war economy put on autopilot. You see, the list of countries. I mean, you can see, what was it, General Clark. You can see that footage of him back in the Bush years talking about we're going to go after these countries and this is how we're going to do it. I don't even know why. Iran's on that list. Trump was instigating Iran, but then the pandemic happened and that kind of, that kind of got put on the back burner because there was a pandemic. I have a feeling Biden will likely pick up that mantle. Absolutely. So I hope, in particular on Afghanistan, I really hope I'm proven wrong and he does actually withdraw on September 11th, which what a creepy date selection, by the way.
Right?
Like how like it's like, well, we want to ring in the anniversary. I guess we'll leave this place that we were in for 20 years for no freaking reason. But what an interesting date choice. But I hope I'm proven wrong and he actually does do it. But I certainly wouldn't place a bet on it.
And basically, and Joe Biden himself, like I said previously, even a couple minutes ago, he's all about the symbolism. Like, how many liberals and CNN and MSNBC were saying, "Oh my God, Biden is so great! Look what he's doing. He's pulling out on the anniversary, and it's so great." And they were praising Biden as being some innovator, and also Biden in his speech saying, "I will not allow another president. It's been 4 other ones prior to me that were in Afghanistan. I'm not going to do it." And mainstream media, MSNBC, CNN, all praising Biden for doing this. But when Trump tried to do the exact same thing, they literally said, "Oh, he's helping out the forces. He's not looking after the troops. Pulling out of Afghanistan would be irresponsible." But when Uncle Joe does it, apparently now it's great. So that's basically what pisses me off about it as well. And to add to another point, even if Joe Biden does want to pull off out of Afghanistan, there's a reason why he also wants to increase the military budget, just in case they stay, keep shooting up folks, keep taking the oil, baby. Or if they do leave, they're going to go after China. Because now going after China is now the bipartisan position. Before it was this, oh, Trump is a xenophobic, the Republican Party, all they care about is money, that's all they want to do.
Right.
But now the Democratic Party is chasing them to the right as well. So even if they do pull out of Afghanistan, they're going to go after China as well. I mean, we're seeing this. I mean, you should have. I mean, I've learned a lot of this too because I've listened to a lot of work and articles from Danny Haifonk from the Black Agenda Report. He covered all the crazy stuff that Trump was doing pre-pandemic to now. And what I see the Democratic Party doing is they're following that exact same playbook. They just play it up nicer than Donald Trump. It's just the same fucking playbook that's pissing me off. So if you think that getting out of Afghanistan is good, baby, oh, we're going to be in China. We're going to be in the South China Sea. I mean, tensions are ramping up. That's where we're going next. The United States doesn't plot at wars. We create new ones and leave one. So if we leave one, we're creating three more. I mean, just look at Obama, okay? Started with Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria. I mean, come on, guys. Like, I know we're looking for a win here, but let's be honest. I mean, China themselves, lately, they have one of the best anti-poverty programs right now. And look how they're treating their citizens. They're doing a lot better than how we're treating ours. Every other country is. So the United States, what we do, we don't necessarily help our people. We abuse our people, and we want to blow up other people's countries and take their money. So this is the American playbook through and through.
Yes. Speaking of taking care of our people in comparison to other countries, I have a question that I really pose to all of you. And, when we want policies for people like Social Security expansion, Medicare for all, student debt cancellation, there's always no money available. But when it comes to defense spending, they make it rain like a strip club. What are your thoughts on the best way that the left can put more pressure on politicians to do more policies for people versus corporations? And do you even think it's worth pursuing? And Ron, I'd like to start off with you.
Well, that's a heavy question. I admittedly have very, 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 very little confidence in electoral politics at the federal level.
Mhm.
I just don't. I think that during this pandemic, the mask. I mean, the mask was already off, but now it's apparent that it really is its most brutal form. That we are a straight up banana republic. We are just straight up a shield for, like, our electoral politics is basically just a shield for Wall Street getting whatever they want.
A failed
And what
state.
it's a failed state. I mean,
Yep.
it's just a war economy. It is, I mean, they can hand Wall Street a blank check while giving us crumbs of crumbs, quite frankly. Compared to other countries, what we've done is absolutely criminal. It's just absolutely criminal. And this is what this whole experiment is. I don't even think it's fair to call it a country. I don't think the United States is a country. It is a place, and there is some infrastructure, but it does not behave like a country at all. It is essentially literally a corporation with state lines. That's what it is. And so my hope as far as change is concerned lies in people taking back their neighborhoods. It lies in mutual aid efforts. As far as electoralism is concerned, I'm more excited about things on a local level, taking back your city councils, taking back, trying to get some decent mayors, trying to, do something about police brutality in your neighborhood, and just literally starting one neighborhood at a time, pretty much. Because, as far as the state and federal level is concerned, I think it's just too far gone, and that is by design. Do I like to try to see better candidates win and stuff like that? Absolutely. But until we have some true systemic change, the system's just going to continue. And I think that systemic change can only happen from the ground up.
Electoral politics is a joke. I said this before, because electoral politics is a joke because we can't vote out U.S. imperialism.
Right.
We can't
I
vote them
agree.
out. I mean, how can we vote out Tony Blinken? How can we vote these people out? These war criminals who continue to have a ton of influence in our government and continue to drive us towards more war. And this is what pisses me off because I said at the time, we need people in the streets for U.S. imperialism the same way we have people in the streets for police violence.
Mm-hmm.
Where did the anti-war movement go? This is why Barack Obama was one of the most effective movement killers in American history, and why he's still one of the biggest threats to the left. They sent Barack Obama in as the assassin of the anti-war movements, and he killed them off efficiently because now U.S. foreign policy is something that you're not even expected to have as your litmus test. Because you notice, Ron, the people who were more likely to sheep herd people to the Democratic Party, the people who was yelling at people for not voting for Joe Biden, look at their page, look at their content and what they talk about.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people who are less likely to talk about U.S. foreign policy. They're the people that didn't bring up the fact that Joe Biden is continuing Trump policy in Yemen. He's escalating with Russia. He's continuing the coup in Venezuela. Like the fact that we have a progressive politician that even follows Juan Guaido is a joke. And that's the problem with them because they sheep herd people into thinking that opposing U.S. imperialism, not a big deal. We just defer to Democratic leadership on that. And it's good that they have policies that they care about and pushing for Medicare for all. But by not speaking on the issue of Julian Assange, the fact that AOC she didn't say anything when Joe Biden bombed Syria. I said after the election, this is around the time where a lot of people on the left was going after Bernie Sanders. And I said at the time, I understand that we have an inside-outside game. I don't like what Bernie Sanders is doing, but what I want from him and the progressive politicians is for them to be the number one enemy of the establishment. That if he did that, that will kind of redeem him like sheep herding people to Biden. If the second that Joe Biden, I literally tweeted this, if Joe Biden committed a war crime, Bernie Sanders and the progressive squad, they should be writing articles of impeachment. And now people are like, what? I think Joe Biden, the articles of impeachment should have been writing for Joe Biden the second he bombed Syria because that was an illegal bombing. People are like, what? You crazy? No, I'm not. Move the Overton window back to the left. That's why I mentioned earlier, where people want our expectations of foreign policy to be to the dirt. And the progressive politicians, the squad, AOC, Bernie, by not speaking on those things, they were giving the Democratic Party permission to be unhinged war criminals. They've given Joe Biden the permission to have the foreign policy that Noam Chomsky said himself is just like Donald Trump. So then they go on a tour, and I'm gonna bring Ron in here very soon before I go for an hour here. they go on a tour and they tell everyone that Joe Biden is a great president instead of calling him out for these illegal activities that he's been doing. So remember when every progressive lost their mind when Donald Trump didn't do anything for the killing of Khashoggi. And then Biden launches an investigation, and then when that first happened, there was a lot of positive headlines for him. Yeah, Joe Biden is holding Saudi Arabia accountable because he's launching this probe into what happened. And then that investigation found that they did kill him, and then Biden was like, nah, it's cool. The same thing with Trump. Now they're silent. So what did they do? They effectively moved the Overton window back to the right in our expectations to have a Democratic Party politicians. So that's why we see, to bring it back to the topic at hand, that's why we see Biden increasing the military budget and getting away with it. That's why we see him illegally bombing countries. I'll bring Ron in because I want to see what your thoughts on that because I went long enough.
Well, it really is remarkable, and I think it's something that sometimes even people like in our spaces kind of, like people who dwell in independent media and stuff like that, I think even we forget this sometimes. I mean, I know sometimes even I do, how painfully pro-war our corporate media is. Like just how, like when you really break it down and I mean, it's like you're aware of it, but then it sometimes different moments really hit you in the face where it's like, oh my God.
Hey, Ron, didn't you see CNN say we're staying in Afghanistan and we launched an imperialism for feminism?
Right? I mean, they're making, they were like, we need to continue endless war for women's rights. Like, are you
bombing for feminism?
Be kidding me? You gotta be kidding me. Well, and look, I mean, we can even go back to Trump. When did they call Trump presidential? When he bombed Syria. That's when they said he became president, when he bombed Syria. Brian Williams was celebrating Leonard Cohen, who, by the way, rest in power, Leonard Cohen. Not a fan of war, Leonard Cohen, by the way. He was invoking Leonard Cohen to celebrate a bombing, calling our weapons beautiful. I mean, this is like stuff out of it's dystopian level stuff. And we're reminded of this time and time again. And y'all brought up liberals and stuff like that, which, I mean, here on shows like this, we make a huge distinction between liberals and leftists. And, when you hear these liberals sometimes, when foreign policy comes up, they sound like absolute maniacs.
Yeah, insane.
Where they sugarcoat and justify what we're doing. Like, well, if we didn't do it, somebody else would. So we just need to set the Middle East on fire because we're not the bad guys. I mean, who are the good guys? And it's like, look, everyone knows every country has their problems. No one's trying to imply that's not the case. But we're the frickin' empire here. How can you not see that? We are the frickin' empire. We're setting the world on fire. We're the frickin' bad guys. It doesn't matter that other countries have their problems, and of course they do. But what we're doing is absolutely disgusting and revolting, and it needs to end.
And here's the thing, though. Like, the difference between Republicans and Democrats is this, and this is how it helps really the military-industrial complex. Here's the Republican side with Donald Trump. Bomb them, take the oil. Bomb them, take the oil. Just take it. They'll be begging to give it to us, And then there's a Democrat side with, Kamala Harris. Well, see, we've been fighting wars with oil for centuries. Now it's going to be for water. So at one point, she admits that that's what we're fighting for with these endless wars, while at the same time preparing for the next natural resource we have to go over to take over, And really all it does is it helps really the military-industrial complex use manufacturing consent to allow more wars to happen. Because liberals themselves are pro-war. Like, let's not even pretend. They're just nicer about it. So conservatives and people and politicians like a Donald Trump, they say what's on their fucking mind. They don't mind blowing people up, taking their natural resources, killing their kids. They have to pretend now because Trump has some people who are anti-war in his field, so he has to pretend to give a fuck. But Democrats do this weird capitulating game where they want the capitalists, they want the corporations to still give them money because due to cancel culture and due to blowback too, the corporations still want the money. The Democrats too, with their base, they are a little bit more sympathetic, so they have to pretend. That's why they play everything up to be more professional. While you have the Republicans, they just say, just blow the motherfuckers up, take the oil. While the Democrats say, oh, we have to have a specific plan. We have like a targeted operation in the Middle East. So it's a different play on words, and the mass media itself helps out a lot with that.
The Queen of Resistance. Do you guys see Jennifer Rubin on foreign policy, the clip that went viral very recently? And I love how you bring up how liberals are maniacs on foreign policy too, Ron, because you listen to her. She's the resist queen. Liberals love her.
Yeah.
And you hear, I don't know if you saw the clip. I'm still trying to figure out how to play it on here.
I heard about it, but I didn't see it. I heard about it.
Yeah, and she pretty much just explaining casually how, United States should definitely just go in other countries and destabilize their government. The fact we should be doing it, and we should be applying pressure on authoritarian regimes. And by the way, guys, when Jennifer Rubin says apply pressure on authoritarian regimes, you guys know what that means?
Starve poor people. Yeah.
No, it's sanctions, that too, but also starving them.
Bombing, starving. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, amen. Because that's what she's advocating for. That what Donald Trump implemented with those sanctions. That same sanctions that Joe Biden continues to this day. Those are the sanctions that are going to affect the poor working class. So these are the people that are more likely to push the idea of lesser two evils, where they're like, oh, how can you say liberals are just like conservatives? Because I'm looking at the issue of the police state and I'm looking at the issue of foreign policy. So when I hear Jennifer Rubin go off, I would love to try to get that thing working on here so we can show Ron. But when I hear her speak about U.S. foreign policy, how she's just casually advocating for starving poor people and bombing poor people, I'm like, this is terrifying to me. I'm just as terrified of that as I am with Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh, for example, because Jennifer Rubin and that class of liberals, they are also more likely to support giant police budgets. And I've been trying to get this through people's mind. These people are enemies, and I consider them to be worse than conservatives on the issue of police violence. Now, allow me to explain before you guys are like, what? So conservatives are open about how they want to fund giant military budgets, giant police budgets, and they're just pretty much giant government bootlickers. I'll call them that in their face. They open about that. So when you have liberals that tweet hashtag Black Lives Matter and they constantly tweet about George Floyd and how they're angry about the police, but then their solution is to funnel more money to the police, what did they effectively accomplish? Because that's what a lot of Democratic cities have done since the start of this year. They actually increased their police budgets. So they used the death of George Floyd, they used the death of Breonna Taylor, they used black oppression and black exploitation in order to funnel money into the forces of oppression that are killing us in the first place. So how is that not worse than conservatives who just outright say, "Hey, I want to increase the budget," and then they're like, "Yeah, fuck George Floyd." They're like they openly against us. Meanwhile, liberals are like, "Yeah, I care about George Floyd now. Let's pass the George Floyd Act that gives more money to the police." Like the fact that they even did that should have people in the streets. But I don't have a lot of optimism like you, Ron, because Biden lured people back to sleep. That bill should put people in the streets, and they will get away with it.
But here's the thing, though. There's one part you're missing. Conservatives only want to increase the military budget and the police budget to protect daddy's property. Let's get fucking real. They didn't give a fuck about people. All they saw was police precincts burning, Target getting looted and burnt to the fucking ground. That's all they fucking cared about. While liberals, they believe in this utopian bullshit ideology. If we give the police more money, maybe it can have more training. We can get better cops. Fuck that. That's fucking bullshit. That's the same fucking bullshit we've been doing with the last 40 fucking years. And so that's why they both piss me the fuck off.
And you notice that I tweeted about this recently. You know that black celebrities and the wealthy black liberal class, they are way less likely to be supportive of defund the police. And despite media propaganda, because there's a lot of liberal type people, especially white progressive, where they're like, "Oh, you guys are just lefties who want to defund the police. The black community don't want to do that. You just guys are just out of touch white people." Whenever you hear someone say that, you know they're a bad faith actor, because even at the height of the unpopularity of defund police, because I even admitted it last summer that we got work to do. But even when it was at the most unpopular, there was two people who supported it: the Democrats and black people. Majority of white people disapprove with it, but majority of Democrats support it because disenfranchised communities like Latinos and blacks, indigenous people were mostly supportive of that. So it always was a lie in the first place when they always say, "Oh, black people don't support defund the police." So you have these wealthy black oligarchs who are out of touch, because it shows that capitalism, and Ron, you said it earlier, the capitalism is the problem, because capitalism even brought the brains of disenfranchised communities. Because now they are less likely to call for defunding the police, because, like RJ just said, they want their property to be protected. They don't care that the working class and is being negatively affected. We having our wealth transferred away from us in the form of civil asset forfeiture, having our rights taken away from us in terms of prison slave labor. The black bourgeoisie, they don't give a fuck about that. And that's a class problem. I'll pass it back to JB.
Well, actually, to add to your point, and then that's when they'll take some black celebrity and they'll push them out in front of all the other black people and say, we really shouldn't do this. And this person is usually a property owner. And they'll say, well, you guys shouldn't be, burning down a precinct, or you guys shouldn't be, burning down an Apple store or something like that. We got to think about, the job creators and things like that, which are these big, huge multinational corporations that actually take, our money away from us anyway. And so these are the same people that talk about, our, rights as black people, when they're at the BET Awards giving the floor speech. But then at the same time, there are also the same ones that are partnering with places like McDonald's or Ford, and they're basically screwing over other black people just to be able to earn a buck. So they really don't have much of a leg to stand on when it comes to the morality of the issues. So I don't really give much stock into listening to them at all. And I don't think many black people should do the same. I mean, look at Killer Mike, and he was basically advocating for the preservation of businesses rather than lives, in Atlanta. And so for us to sit here and think that just because they're black, but a capitalist that means that they're on, the same side as, we are when it comes to putting people over property or people over profits. Um, or have they been uh, has their consent been manufactured? To a great degree, yes. But at the same time, they also have the ability to research and to figure things out. And we have been telling them these things for the longest time, but they haven't been listening. So, therefore, because of that, it sounds to me a lot like willful ignorance. And so, therefore, uh, this is one of the reasons why they don't have as much push, especially among the activist community, because the activists see exactly what's going on in the ground.